Folks, we are nearing the end of our Project 2025 adventure. I've pressed the button to start the segment. There's no going back now, okay? No going back. And we have maybe one of the shortest videos in the entire playlist coming up here. This is Staffing an Office, a video about how to make sure your office is staffed up. So let's take a look here. 17 minutes long, shouldn't be too much of our time. We need to complete the training. Exactly. Mr. Miyagi gets it. Time is one directional. It's true.
Hello, my name is Jeff Small.
Oh, they didn't do the intro. I was waiting for the intro. I was ready to go like, the country's only alive as long as it is living. I was waiting to do that. I've done it in almost every single episode. But okay. Time to look at Jeff Small, former senior advisor to the secretary. You know, let's just take a quick Google. You know, maybe, you know, not all of these people could be monsters, surely. Jeff Small. That it's taking me to a bunch of repair places in Wisconsin called Jeff's Small Engine. Shout out to Jeff's Small Engine. Jeff Small Trump. There we go. Uh-oh. One of the top stories. Congresswoman-elect appoints outgoing Trump and Gardner staff. No relation. I disavow them. I disavow. Jeff Small, current senior advisor to Interior Secretary David Bernhardt, will be Boebert's chief of staff, and the Daily Sentinel reported Wednesday. Oh, okay, so he's going to work for one of the more evil and vile members of Congress. Excellent. Good to know where he landed.
Small. I was a presidential appointee in the Trump administration, where I worked as a senior advisor to the 53rd Department of the Interior Secretary David Bernhardt. I'm currently the chief of staff for U.S. Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, was previously the executive director of the Congressional Western Caucus, and have worked for numerous congressmen, governor candidates, and U.S. Senate candidates throughout my 18 years working in politics. I grew up in Colorado and have worked in D.C. for the last 12 years. My wife, daughter, and I live in Northern Virginia. If you're taking time to watch this video, I'd like to get to know you and I would encourage you to reach out to me.
I mean, I guess he's encouraging you to reach out to him, folks. I don't know why he mentioned having a wife and kid and where he lives, but that was weird. But I guess he wants you to reach out to him. So, you know, if you want a position in the future Trump administration, reach out to Jeff Small, I guess. He'd love to meet you. He wants to know us, to date us. Yes, he wants you to go out there to Virginia to be wined and dined.
In the eyes of many in the
Oh God, that's so loud.
world, this every 4-year ceremony we accept as normal is nothing less than a miracle.
We all need to go to Virginia to wine and dine.
Is only living as long as
Jeff.
it is striving.
Country's only living as long as it's alive.
Only a few generations have been granted
This
the
was a
role
fake out on the intro, I
of
guess.
defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger.
This great nation will
I love that they picked like the most hyperbolic clips here in order to take them out of context to make it seem like America is on the precipice of destruction. And Trump alone can fix it, and that's why you are going to be his instruments in governmental office. You know, like it's all geared towards that end. It's really not subtle about it.
endure as it has endured, will revive and will prosper.
Whether we go forward together with courage or turn back to
Whether we
policies
go
that
forward
weakened our economy, diminished
or
our
forget
leadership
what
in the
I was
world,
saying,
America's future will be
I'll
in
get
your
those
hands.
jelly beans. Hello, Reed. How you doing? Folks, remember to hit the follow button on Twitch, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, like the YouTube stream, and consider dropping those subs and donos. We're dumping into
Today,
the
the
segment.
main topic I'll be discussing is how to staff your principal. If you had 4 days to plan and execute a roundtable with the president, the secretary, and to get 50 top sportsmen and conservation leaders to fly across the country for the event, could you pull it off? Will you and your boss
Yeah, we need to get top sportsmen. None of those bottom or switch sportsmen.
have a secret signal to keep things moving or extract them from uncomfortable conversations? Will you know your boss well enough to know what things make them most comfortable on the road, including their favorite snacks, drinks, meals, and bathroom stops?
Are you really? Are you? All right, we need you to know how to pick up a senator's shit, okay? Because sometimes they poop themselves, all right? And you need to know exactly what kind of wet wipes they need, all right? You need to know which ones don't irritate their skin. You need to make sure you know when and where they need those extra chicken nuggies. And if they ask you to go get a coffee, you better damn well go get them that coffee. Or so help me, I will bury you somewhere undeterminable in Virginia.
While this wasn't the case with my particular principal, did you know that staffing your boss could entail ensuring they have a holding room next to the room they will be speaking in, with a glass cup with chilled water, no ice, all the local daily newspapers, and other comforts?
Other comforts.
These are some of the questions and topics we will dive in today as we discuss effective strategies for staffing your boss. Today we're going to walk through 4 imperative components to adequately staff their principal. Know the preferences and expectations of your boss. Always anticipate their needs. Know the schedule and be able to adapt quickly to changes. Know the president's agenda and your...
I mean, okay. I know it's not fair. It's not fair to me to have this built-in set of assumptions about what kinds of creature comforts are to be provided to these powerful men and women. But yeah, Lady Raincloud, it's really hard for my brain not to immediately go, oh yeah, you want people who will get them tickets to the Epstein Island. Okay, yeah, okay. You need to know how to get them a Diet Coke and at least, unquestionable access to a very questionable location.
Your agency's policy priorities and initiatives. The first component is to know the preferences and expectations of your boss. What is their preferred method of communication?
What are their preferences? Do they like men? Do they like women? What do they like? Try and discern it to the best of your ability.
Is the best
honestly, guys, these training videos, I know I'm pausing a lot, and I apologize, but like these training videos are really just so bizarre. Like you could incorporate any single one of these into a sitcom, and like a guy trying to be like the best, like the Dwight Schrute trying to be the best Republican appointee, and just having no idea what he is doing because these training videos absolutely did not prepare him for a single bit of the job. Like, know how to anticipate their needs. I looked at his Facebook. It said he liked baseball, but then he got angry when I brought him a signed baseball. What was he interested in? Oh, geez.
time to approach them? On the Hill and in the House of Representatives, the typical preferred communication methods are email, text, or even signal chat. But when you work for the federal government, everything you put in an email, text, or note is foilable and releasable to the American people. At Interior, we had a ton of...
There it is. Yes, if they ask you for anything weird, don't write it down because otherwise it will be the Freedom of Information Act requestable.
In-person meetings, which allowed us to speak a little more freely about the topics of the day. I would always advise you to show up at least 5 minutes early for meetings, as we always start on time. You would also pick up some good info in that time before the meeting started if you got there early and paid attention. Every morning I was one of 15 political appointees who would join the secretary for an 8:40 meeting in the conference room. We'd go around the room and each person would update him on 2 to 3 important things. He could ask questions and he would also make assignments. And I quickly learned that the secretary typically knew much more about the subject folks were updating him on than they did. He didn't like folks to be long-winded, and he would call you out if you weren't prepared and hadn't done your homework. At Interior, we had a ton on our plates and so much that we were trying to get done that we didn't have time to waste. We would do another short 10-minute...
What are these videos even? These were obtained by ProPublica and published. These are intended for internal use for the Heritage Foundation to train the people, you know, the Trump supporters who are signing up to participate in Project 2025, which relies on getting, you know, 10,000 plus bureaucrats signed up and trained up so that when and if Donald Trump wins, he has a standing army of bureaucrats that they can just immediately shift into the administration to serve as yes men to get rid of any and all blocks to the president's agenda, essentially allowing him to very easily become the dictator many people fear that he could become. Why are they such generic, nondescript training videos? Well, because the main purpose of these is to cater to the lowest common denominator, the most likely people that are going to sign up to do this, who are easily pliable yes men, who will just do what they're told and rubber stamp the president's agenda. They're not looking for lifetime career bureaucrats. They're looking for, you know, morons. And the training videos are geared towards morons, you know, like that's what these are for. These are to train morons to enable a fascist takeover of America. Yeah, they don't want talent, they want pulses. Exactly, Holly Humst. Neurosludge, hello. Politics have become increasingly embarrassing. I agree. Fun fact about Project 2025, the person that wrote the foreword of Project 2025 is none other than J.D. Vance. The same guy who claims to know nothing of Project 2025? Yeah, and the president of the Heritage Foundation is on the record talking about how he's not worried about Donald Trump disavowing Project 2025 because he knows that ultimately that plan will be Trump's plan. Are they basically children in terms of IQ? I mean, I don't really think IQ matters, but what I do think they're just people who don't really care that much about how the government actually works or how the bureaucracy actually works or how anything gets done in government. They are ideological foot soldiers that they're being put in to just do whatever Trump tells them to do.
Check in at 3:40.
Yeah, like this advice is literally don't show up late. Know like what kinds of things the person you're working for likes so you can have them on hand. And also, hey, don't put anything in writing because that can be requisitioned via a Freedom of Information Act request, and we don't want you to leave obvious evidence of the crimes we're planning to do. I work for a nonprofit that does a lot of political and health-based surveys. It's depressing. I can only imagine, Neurosludge.
5 to make sure there weren't any wildfires or other important matters that needed to be discussed. While the 8:40 meetings could be intense at times, I wouldn't have had it any other way. I was in the action, got to interact with the secretary and senior staff every day, and I knew what was going on in the building. Because there was so much to do, other appointees typically had to work through their supervisor or their chief of staff, be in an actual meeting with the secretary, or request a meeting on his calendar in order to interact with him in person. A lot of information flowed through the chain of command, and a lot of other appointees would rely on me and the 14 other political appointees in the 8:40 meetings to tell them what was going on and what we were going to focus on that day. Getting to know other preferences and expectations of your boss is also important. How quickly do they expect you to respond to a text or email? Typically, Secretary Bernhardt expected you to respond that same day within a few hours, unless there was something urgent.
I can only imagine Neurosludge. I'm sorry. I just need to read this out. Um, Most of the respondents are retired people with nothing better to do, but it's like a question will ask, "What's your age/sex or whatever?" and their answer is Trump 2024 and some homophobic bullshit. It's soul crushing, expected, but just exhausting. I can only imagine. I can only imagine. It is absolute, like it's a slog for me to just like exist and like see homophobic and bigoted comments on like my videos or on social media or whatever. But like it must really suck to like encounter it in a place where like you really aren't expecting it. Like a survey, you know? Like that there's something about it just coming so out of left field that seems more more jarring. Trump 20 to 24 years in prison. True. My pronouns are Trump/Vance.
What format do they like their schedule in? Secretary Bernhardt had his schedule on his phone, but he also liked to have a hard copy of the schedule in his daily folder with the memo and other items we prepped for the day. What format do they like briefing papers in? We had a very specific format for briefing papers that included pictures of attendees, all the interactions with the attendees, as well as specific blurbs on policy and policy changes. Expectations cannot be met if they are not adequately communicated. I came in a little later to the administration, so by the time I got there, a lot of these processes were already in place, but I spent a lot of time with my supervisor and other folks who knew the secretary well and that were in charge to learn his style, how he liked things, and what the expectations were. And if you listen to him, he would also convey the expectations. If he told you to read the entire weekly report to the secretary prior to a meeting, then you better have read it and know it well enough to answer a question if he called on you. A new political appointee should take steps to learn things like this from the start, and you shouldn't come in acting like you know everything to avoid starting off on a bad foot.
Oh, you mean you shouldn't just come into a new job where you have zero experience and pretend you know everything, and should instead approach it with humility and like openness to learning new things? Wow, that's crazy. We are really, really just talking the most basic things imaginable.
It is critical to get to work on day one, and there are numerous steps you can take to become a well-oiled machine as fast as possible to advance the president's agenda. The time goes very fast, especially when you're dealing with regulations, the Federal Register, career employees, and implementing policy changes. The next component to effectively staffing your principal is to always anticipate their needs. What can you do to make their day and their job easier? What can you take off their plate? Anticipate not only what they need, but what questions they are going to ask. If you work for someone for a fair amount of time, you will learn that they always ask XYZ. Identify that and prepare accordingly. If you're on the road a lot with them, then it's helpful to know what things make them most comfortable. Knowing their favorite snacks, drinks, meals, and even what bathrooms they think are typically the cleanest are all helpful things.
Really? There have been multiple insinuations that you really need to know where your boss is shitting all the time, to a point that makes me concerned for Congress and for the administrative state at large. Yeah, point so nice they made it twice. How disastrous are these shits? I'm worried now.
You are there to make their life easier. The third component is to know the schedule and be able to adapt quickly to changes. Memorize the schedule and make sure your phone is charged and always have the calendar at the tip of your fingers. Know what's next on the schedule. Preparation and organization are critical, but in politics, things don't always go as planned. You may not be the scheduler, but you need to be able to think on your feet and find quick solutions. Finally, the last component, and maybe the most important, is know the president's agenda and know your agency's policy priorities.
Yes. Number one, know what the president's agenda is so that you can do whatever you can to enact it. Excellent stuff. Really, this is what is hammered home in every single video here. It's just internalize whatever Trump tells you and immediately carry it out. Just do those things. Don't question it. There are no checks and balances. Just do it.
And initiatives. While staffing your boss, it is likely that folks will chat you up as well, especially as they are eagerly awaiting their chance to talk to your boss. If they ask you a question, you need to be able to respond without looking like a deer in headlights. You need to be able to articulate recent wins for your boss, the agency, and the administration. We always had a running accomplishments list, and the weekly reports to the secretary were also very helpful in this regard. Being knowledgeable of the administration's successes and goals is one way you can play a key role in helping advance your boss and the president's agenda. And speaking of carrying out the president's agenda, never forget that is why you're there, and that is why political appointees exist. Secretary Bernhardt saw a LinkedIn post I did early on about being excited to work for him in the department, and he reminded me that I work for the president first and foremost, and essentially told me to update my LinkedIn post. This was a valuable lesson, and Secretary Bernhardt constantly reminded all of the political appointees that we were there to help carry out the president's agenda, that we worked for President Trump.
Oh my God, this guy was actually ecstatic about working in Donald Trump's previous administration, made a post about it on social media, and his boss was like, "No, you serve the president. How dare you be excited to work with me, but a useless peon, paving the way for something greater than myself, Donald J. Trump! Take it down, it's an insult!" And it's just like, what, my God. What are you, woke? Yeah, you're getting excited about something? Seems a bit homosexual.
And that President Trump was the boss. To recap, know the preferences and expectations of your boss. Always anticipate their needs. Know the schedule and be able to adapt quickly to changes. Know the president's agenda and your agency's policy priorities and initiatives. One final note. If you're someone who is staffing a principal, chances are you will have a decent amount of face time with your boss. Always keep it professional. They are your boss, not your friend. Now,
they are your boss, not your friend. So don't tell them what you're doing with your weekend plans, because you don't have to.
let's talk about staffing your boss during on-site meetings. At DOI, I was a senior advisor to the secretary and worked in external and intergovernmental affairs. My primary duties involved managing meetings and interactions with governors, county commissioners, as well as the oil and gas industry, mining industry, cattlemen, and other stakeholders and elected officials. In this role, I also work closely with the scheduling team, advance team, communications team, and the Secretary of Security team to ensure everything on the Secretary's calendar.
That's cool, but you're just telling us what you did. You're just reiterating all of these things.
And all his interactions and events were planned out well and functioning perfectly. Your principal may know more than you, but you want to be prepared and also want to make sure that they are prepared by providing substantive, informative, and concise content in the memo you write for their meeting.
I mean, to this guy's credit, his video is at least, half the length of most of the other videos out there. So I guess by the Trump administration's standards, he's pretty concise. But like the rest of them are just prattle on and on and on, reiterating the same like 3 points.
We had an Excel tracker that tracked every interaction and request with every elected official and stakeholder in every state. All these interactions went into the memo. When staffing important meetings, here are a few tricks I picked up. I would always meet a governor or other visiting guests and their team out in front of the building. I'd shake their hand and welcome them immediately when they exited their vehicle. Remember, you represent your boss and you're responsible for making a good first impression. I would typically start making my way to the front of the building 20 minutes before their arrival and would be texting with the governor's federal affairs person, so I knew almost to the second when they were pulling up. I would have already talked to security earlier in the day and given them all the names of everyone that would be entering the building with the governor to expedite entry. And security would also accompany out front to safely escort the governor and his team in. This was many governors' first time visiting the building, so it was important to make them feel comfortable and welcome. Be extremely professional, make sure I did my homework and knew their priorities, that I knew their ass, that I knew what everyone looked like and their names, and also that I knew something interesting about them. All of this information should also be included in the memo for my principal, including pictures of the people that are going to be in the meeting.
So you need to compile like a little dossier of information, like a little Rolodex for your boss. Okay.
Everything you prepare for your principal, you also serve as a resource for you to make that good first impression. Once we took the elevator up to the 6th floor, I would typically take them to the secretary's conference room, text the secretary's assistant we were there, and then we would continue to make small talk. Use this time to make your principal and the administration look good. Tell them about all of the important things being done for their state and any of the other policy accomplishments they might find interesting. Most often, the secretary would then come in and sit at the head of the conference table and run the meeting from there, but occasionally he would tell us to come back to his office and we would meet there. During the meetings, I'd be actively taking notes, ensuring I was getting everything down the secretary was saying we were going to look into and follow up on. And following the meetings, I would make sure I tasked out assignments to the right folks to make sure we got the answers and worked on the governor's requests.
Wow, so you took notes in a meeting and then delegated tasks to prepare for what you needed to do. Oh wow. Who would have thought that these are things you should do?
The governor's asks and anything important they said would also be written up in a weekly report.
I'm sorry, what? The governor's what?
The governor's asks and anything important they said would also be written up in a weekly report. The governor's asks and anything important they said would also be written up in a weekly report to the secretary.
Okay, we need to know. We need the weekly report. Which governor has the juiciest behind? Okay, we need it for national security reasons.
That came out Thursday evenings.
God.
Now let's talk about staffing your principal at events. When driving on the road with your principal to events, it is important that you let them set the tone and let them initiate the conversation. Their time in the car is valuable. They should be catching up on texts, emails, phone calls, or preparing for their next meeting, not listening to you talk about what you had for dinner last night. At the actual event,
yeah, listen, don't get any ideas about being friends or nothing with people you know and see on a daily basis, okay? They hate your guts. They got the knives out for you, baby.
It's important to always be near or by their side, but you also don't want to be in all the pictures.
Is this a training video on how to be a sub? Yeah, this is a training video on domestic submissiveness as a lifestyle.
You should dress the part, don't drink at events, never speak
That's right, dress the part. Put on the maid outfit, Shinji.
poorly of anyone in attendance, use your manners. You know the drill. It is extremely important that you know the names of the people that will be interacting with your boss, and ideally you should know where they met or the last time they interacted. If I thought the secretary might not remember a certain person's name, I tried to whisper it to him as they were approaching or before we approached a group. And if that wasn't feasible, I'd say, Mr. Secretary, you remember Dustin with the Farm Bureau, as they're walking up, and then let them shake hands and talk. Other items I've always had with me when staffing the secretary at events included some of his business cards in case he forgot them, my business cards, a pen, numerous challenge coins as he liked to hand those out, and also a clipboard with a few blank pieces of paper.
Okay, what the hell is a challenge coin? I've heard that phrase a couple of times. Challenge coins have a special way of instilling pride in recipients. They serve as a more informal token of appreciation, standing in place of medals and ribbons. What? It's a nerdy military thing? Sounds like it.
Paper and also a sign-up sheet for our newsletter that I would pass around to attendees. When staffing the secretary at events, follow-up is key. I would try to get any good pictures from the photographer that same day and email them immediately to the people we met with. I would also make sure I was taking good notes on conversations and that we're following up on the things that we needed to be followed up on and tasking those out to the different bureaus. It is important that you are also willing to be the bad guy and extract your boss from conversations when necessary to stay on schedule or ensure that one person isn't taking too much of your principal's time. The secretary and I developed a signal over time that came in handy for these purposes. Staffing for roundtables was similar and another important part of my job at DOI. I put together different roundtables with the secretary in the DC building and out in the field that ranged between 25 and 50 attendees. Much of my work was in the preparation phase, and then the secretary would run the actual roundtable with me sitting next to him at the head of the conference table. I would have to lean on the relationships I built over the years to get cell phones and reach out to the different participants. Having said that, most people were pretty excited to drop whatever they were doing in order to participate in a roundtable with the secretary. There was one particular sportsman and conservation roundtable that I got a call from the White House, and they indicated they wanted us to host the very next week. I had about 4 days to contact 50 participants and get them to book flights from wherever they were throughout the country to fly to Colorado to join a roundtable with the president and secretary. Now let's talk about walk.
I mean, that sounds really hard, but also it probably makes it a lot easier to book for an event when you have the president of the United States being there. You know, like, most people are willing to drop an awful lot if the president is coming out, you know?
Walk and talks for a minute. Walk and talks can occur before an interview, meeting, or important phone call. Often walk and talks occur when a commitment has popped up last minute and you aren't as prepared to brief your boss as you normally would be. You typically have a limited amount of time with your principal before they need to go live. In these instances, you don't want to be long-winded. You want to quickly tell them the issue, why it matters, and if time allows, give them 2 to 3 additional bullet points. If your principal wants more information, they will ask you. They may also want to quickly practice and run something by you. Be honest, give them good advice, and always be concise.
Honestly, as far as these videos go, this is probably, even though a lot of this is very basic, this is probably the most useful video for someone actually coming in as an appointee through Project 2025. You know, this is probably much more the speed of what's going to be happening with Project 2025, you know?
These jobs are extremely competitive and they are a privilege. At Interior, while there are approximately 70,000 employees, there are only 90 or so political appointees. The deep state is real, and this was a challenge for all appointees, as Secretary Bernhardt discusses in his recent book.
The deep state is real. That's why we're bringing you guys in. You will be our weapon against the deep state, forged in the holy fire of evangelicalism. Let's go! You will be the ones to defeat the deep state and drain the swamp.
If your principal has
Welcome,
written any
Raiders.
books,
Make yourselves cozy. We're doing some Project 2025 content. We're just starting the political part of our stream today, and make yourselves cozy. Hit the follow button on Twitch. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Like the goddamn YouTube stream. We're getting real close to 8,000 subscribers on the YouTube, by the way, and it'd be really nice to hit 10K by the end of the year. Just throwing it out there. All right, here we go.
buy a copy and read it. If they've done interviews or other writings, familiarize yourself with those prior to starting work. If you can better understand your principal's mindset and how they communicate, this will help start the relationship off on the right foot. If you're interested in working at an agency, you should also get a copy of the Plum Book and talk to someone that has actually worked at that particular agency so they can help you identify the top 2 to 3 appointee jobs you're qualified for and most interested in.
Like, if you're this deep and you're accessing these training videos, like, and the level of information that is provided in these training videos, you don't know what you're interested in. They don't care about what you're interested in. They're just putting you in as a warm body to rubber stamp whatever comes across your desk. Like, your job is effectively mostly going to be what this guy laid out, which is really just getting water and coffee for your boss. Like, that's it. That's it. That's all this is. Like, yes, we want you to be stupid and we want you to enable our fascist rise to power, but also can you be a butler? Can you be our cat ear maid? Okay? If the answer's no, then we'll find a different femboy who can do that.
I've enjoyed spending time with you today, and I wish you the best of luck in the next conservative administration and in your future endeavors. Again, I'm Jeff Small. Please reach out to me anytime if I can ever be of assistance. Thank you.
We did it. We did it. We only have 3 more Project 2025 videos left, guys. We are knocking them out. And honestly, like, it's so repetitive. Having now watched all of these, it's just do whatever the president tells you. Do whatever the president tells you. Regulations are the devil. It is your God-given duty to destroy as many regulations as you can. Do whatever the president tells you. Like, it really does sum up like that. Just got in. Why are we running on empty? I've had a really bad day. Like, bad mental day. Hello, Michaela Rose. Hello, Homelander 999999. Jack, you're doing the Lord's work covering this. I mean, I don't know that many people will watch it, but like, I really want to have all the Project 2025 stuff up in a playlist before the election happens. So we're gonna finish up. We're gonna finish this up over the next couple streams. Our next one is a bit longer than this one. This one, though it was only 17 minutes, did in fact feel like it was an eternity. Well, in sweetness, I am lucky to be surrounded by people who love me, and it was made better by that, but I'm not going to go into that. Do you regret me showing you these as much as I regret showing them to you? No, I think this is important.